Done. Well, let's talk about this for the next few minutes. I'm joined by Helen Yaffe, author of Che Guevara, The Economics of Revolution from the University of Glasgow. And here in the studio, Eduardo Gomez from the International Development and Emerging Economies at King's College, London. Welcome both of you to the programme. Helen, to you first of all. Was he the obvious choice here, do you think?
Yes, he definitely was. I think most people had predicted it would be Miguel Díaz-Canel. He's been the first vice president of the Council of State of Cuba for several years.
Eduardo, let me bring you in. I mean, it is clearly a generational shift, but is it any sort of ideological shift, do you think?
Not at all. I don't think there's any ideological shift. He's basically adopted the same ideology for many years, and that's why it facilitated his rise within the political party so quickly. He has shown repeatedly in state media that he supports the views of the Castro brothers and the ideology of the Communist Party, so there's nothing new. It's a continuity of the ideology.
What do you think an ordinary Cuban will actually see in the coming months and years, because you have huge economic hardship there in the country?
Yes, I don't think there'll be much change at all. In fact, people in Cuba have been saying that they don't expect anything to change. Everyone knows that it was Raul's favorite as vice president. The economic policies have been stagnant. The recession has been stagnant. There's been no effort by him or any indication he's going to try and reform the economies quickly. So I don't see any dramatic change occurring in the near future. I think everyone's somewhat pessimistic and doubtful that things will change quickly.
These are the live pictures of Raul Castro addressing that National Assembly. He's been going a little while. Huge scenes of celebration when actually the transition was made. Helen, you've only just recently got back, I gather, from Cuba. In terms of the people that you were talking to there, what were they anticipating around this change?
Well, I think the thing that we need to make clear is that Cuba is undergoing a process of changes, economic reforms, and they are under a program which is known as the Guidelines for Economic and Social Change. And really, Miguel Díaz-Canel's principal job will be to oversee that process and to maintain the unity of the party and of the government with that process, and to hopefully see more fruit from the changes in terms of raising productivity, efficiency and the standard of living.
You were telling our producer he is proof that the revolution is not dying. Why do you come to that conclusion?
Well, I mean, I think one of the most important aspects of Miguel Díaz-Canel's taking up the presidency is that he was born after the revolution. He's 57 years old. The revolution will be 60 on the 1st of January next year. So I think it was also an important strategic decision to show that the revolution is not dying out with the death and retirement of the veterans who made it happen, of the veteran generation.
Eduardo, you're nodding in agreement. You think in terms of those fundamental planks of that revolution, broadly, they are still in place?
Yes, absolutely. I think he's defended the revolution. He's gone in public accusing the U.S. of trying to undermine the revolution through different ways, even some European countries. I think he's very much committed to maintaining the social revolution, sees any external threat or domestic threat as something serious.
I'll come to the challenges with President Trump in a moment or two, but we were looking at pictures of Raul Castro. Despite handing over the presidency, he remains head of the Communist Party. How much influence, how much power behind the scenes does that actually give him, do you think?
Yes, tremendous power. I think the major policies, foreign policy, major economic policies, that will still be Raul Castro's area. I think that the new president, he'll be in charge of the daily operations, but for major policy issues, it'll be Raul Castro's final decisions.
Helen, in terms of that fundamental challenge with Donald Trump, I mean, things had eased under Obama. How do you see that relationship working going forward with the new man?
Well, I mean, Donald Trump has flip-flopped really in his attitude towards Cuba. Before he was a serious candidate for the presidency, he was in favour of rapprochement. He had even sent business representatives to Cuba to inquire about doing business there. And then, of course, when he became a serious candidate, he went to Miami and took up the Miami hard line of the Cuban Americans there that have effectively controlled policy over the decades. And we've seen with the situation, the so-called sonic attacks, and then his strengthening the US embargo, that he's taking a much more hostile position. And I think in light of that, then you'll see the Cuban reaction will be strengthening the role of the Communist Party and strengthening the call for unity and the requirement for unity in the face of external aggression.
Yes, if that analysis is right, in a sense it entrenches the position we've seen for decades. Eduardo, a final point from you. Given all of that, for Canel, does he have any real leverage with the American presidency, do you think?
I don't think that he does. I mean, I think that the Trump administration is, having a hard stance on him. I don't think that he has much influence. I think Trump realizes that he is basically the supporting the Raul Castro's views still of a hard light stance towards the U.S. I don't think he has much leverage and won't have much influence in relations with the U.S.
Well, there we have to leave it. Eduardo Gomez and Helen Yaffe, thank you very much for joining us here on today's programme. Thanks to you both.